Hello, welcome back to this Bristol Rovers career on Football Manager 26. As you will see, it's been a fairly mixed start to the season. Only one defeat to Man City away, which we can't really complain too much about, other than the defeat to Man United in the Community Shield. But wins against Southampton, Cardiff, and Wolves in the Carabao Cup have meant we've had a reasonable start, and it's Ajax up next in the Europa League. We've also got Bastia, Cannes, so two French teams there and two kind of fairly low profile names. Gjor, that sounds Scandinavian, no, it's Hungarian. Strada, I think I've heard of before, of Slovakia. Konyaspor and Celtic. So not an easy run in the Europa League, and definitely the hardest possible start with Ajax. Although it is at home, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Now, if I take you to the recruitment, we have been busy transfer history wise. There was a few moves at the end of last season, so we will start there. Sort it by the date. So Miguel Linton out on loan to Celtic, and Amo Owewa has finally gone, so he went to Losk on a free. And then at the end of last season, we also lined up a fair few transfers. Walter Blanco, Miguel Linton came in and then went back on loan. Felix Azano, all young players that have come in and that we have sought to loan out. Maximovic has actually featured a little bit around the first team. Escobar, another young player. Effectively, all the transfers have been young players that have either come out on loan or have been useful. Mullin being another one. Strunstrup Flint has come in and played fairly regularly in the first team and has started the season quite well. Torre has gone out on loan. Blaise Lahan was a slightly bigger signing. He's come in to be centre-back partner for Pavlovic, who in the end has stayed despite us receiving a few bids. Clubs who were interested changed their minds. And then Mark Guiu was available reasonably cheaply, so he has come in to play up front. And then we've got the transfers for this season. If I sort it by fee, you'll see there's lots of loans. Spychal has gone on a permanent deal. He didn't want to re-sign. We finally moved on some of the young players that didn't end up achieving much, like Mbele, Rendell, Spears, Cisse. Scott Reed was a young goalkeeper that never really featured. Ross Wright, that was a signing that I couldn't really say, or a departure I couldn't really say no to, given how big the offer was. And with Jens Kurt, two players that weren't regular starters, as was Abdelaziz. So almost 100 million there for players that weren't really using very often, was too good to turn down. And then a few free signings, again on the whole young players, although Yarmolenko has come in and done reasonably well as a holding midfielder in his few games. Wirtz has come in as a young player and then gone out on loan to Colchester. And then two loanees, Bant and Hadid, I thought I could do with a bit more depth given the fact that we're in the Europa League. And then Vitovsky has come in to be our starting goalkeeper, but hasn't started all that well. So I will then take you to the matchday squad. Lots of players not available here, which is a slight concern because I think we have a game coming up, but we'll have to look at what that is in a minute. So Vitovsky in goal. Say Byfield has lost his place to Pavlychuk now that we know that Pavlychuk is staying, and Lahan partners in. Bogdanovic has stayed. It's either Matsugume or Beardmore, although I think actually Yarmolenko might become a regular starter there given how well he has started the season with Younger. And then Bassani, Ince and Flego, those three attackers that we've had a lot of over the last few years, with Guiu taking his place up front. Although the way that Flint has started the season, it may be that he takes that place. And then obviously we've got two options of how we want to line those guys up as well. And that is how we are looking. I'm guessing it's a registration issue that's meaning I can't start all of these guys just because the conference season hasn't actually started yet. But that's where we are. It's going to be a tough season, I think, given that we don't have a huge amount of depth to take on the Europa League. We've started reasonably well, so I'll be back at the end of the January window to let you know how it's going. Hello, so we've just hit a bit of a bump in the road in terms of our Premier League campaign with a defeat to Liverpool. coming off the back of a defeat to Man City, only the win away at Sunderland in between those. And what looks like a bit of a hammering in the Europa League. However, but you will see the team we put out wasn't even the reserves. It was effectively just a youth team, because we have already qualified and comfortably we topped the group. Let me take you to the league phase, where, as you can see here, we won 7 out of 7 and then just gave Celtic the win, which did help them, and the big win over us helped them just squeeze in. I didn't realise at the time that the fact they put 5 passes allowed them to squeeze past Club Brugge, which is why they kept attacking. So that's the Conference League. It's looking good so far, and we'll work out who we're playing in the next round reasonably soon after this playoff round. And when it comes to the Premier League, we aren't in a bad position really. We are in the hunt for Europe, 6 points behind the 4th Champions League spot, and a big gap of 7 points ahead of Chelsea. So we're definitely looking up the table rather than down at the moment. As for recruitment in this window just gone, if I take the transfer history and sort it by date, you will see that there was only one incoming, and that was Mel Williams, who has come in from Ipswich. We did have him with us for a while. We signed him on, for $250k from Manchester United a few years ago, before letting him go to Ipswich, where we did actually develop well enough to be worth bringing back. And he is someone that was, because he was with us previously, and he's British, has been a good registration for Europe. And then in terms of outgoings, it was started from here. We finally moved Marito on, and that was part of the reason why we signed Williams back to replace him. And then a few guys out on loan, and Charlie Bow is a young player that hadn't reached his potential to Carlisle. So that's where we are. I will be back at the end of the season, where hopefully we've had further success in Europe and we remain in Europe for the coming season as well. Hello and welcome back to the end of the season, where I am bringing you the highlights of a Europa League final, which, as you can probably already see from the scoreboard at the top, we were victorious in. A brilliant Europa League campaign, particularly when I tell you that we actually went the whole campaign using a reserve team. We didn't field anything like a first string 11 at any point until this final. And I'll show you in a minute, absolutely blew away most of our opposition, including a big win over Bologna in the semi-final. But that was the goal that we conceded. We gave away an early penalty. I think it was less than 4 minutes in. But Vitovsky, playing his first game of the entire Europa League campaign, was able to save it. And you'll see there Beardmore I brought off the bench in the second half. Obviously quite a remarkable achievement, him playing with us in League 2, coming through our very first youth intake, and it was him that created the chance for Sundstrup Flint, which came back off the woodwork, and Williams was able to tap home to bring us back level. We then kind of really pushed forward to go and get the winner, and we had plenty of time left when we did so. I'd made all 5 changes at this point and was pushing players forward, knowing that we were the better team. This Stuttgart side we were playing were at the time mid-table in the Bundesliga, and it was that long ball from Vitovsky to Maximovic, who pulled it back for Sundstrup Flint to score our winner. It was really quite a remarkable end to the season, if I'm honest. After the the international break, where we absolutely hammered Bath City in a friendly, we went on a quite extraordinary run of unbeaten performances until we fell to Chelsea at the end of April. But that was enough to take us to a final day in the Premier League, where our win and Everton's defeat took us above them on goal difference. There was a late goal in our favour and a late goal against them that allowed us to do that, to finish 8th in our best ever performance in terms of finishing position in the Premier League. And I will also then show you the appearance makers Lechan, who has now earned himself 2 England caps and is in the Euros squad, was the star. Ince had a really good, in fact, if I sort it by average rating, you'll see as well, Ince had a really good March and April, which earned him an international call-up, but he didn't make the Euro squad. And Bassani had another good season as well. There's already a few outgoings, but you'll see those at the end, at the start of the next video. We've got a few stars, or a few big names, really, I should say, coming in to start next season as well on free contracts. And I'm already working on a few changes to make us competitive in the Champions League for next season. So that is it for today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like and subscribe for the next one, and I'll be back for our first Champions League campaign.